Hi, and welcome to Joining Us, celebrating 50 years of Bands of America. My name is Chuck Henson, and for 35 of those 50 years, I was the primary public address announcer for Bands of America's series of regional and the Grand National Marching Band Championships. Now, over the course of the next 25 episodes, I'm going to do my very best to bring you the people and stories that ultimately have created the excellence that is BOA.
I just was fascinated by this man's marketing ability and the idea that he was putting together a national organization.
Well, one was having hamburgers directly across the table from Dr. Ravelli. So I'm literally watching him eat a hamburger thinking, that's William D. Ravelli having a hamburger in front of me.
Back when Marching Bands of America began in 1975, I and my high school marching band were one of the first to participate.
10 years after the experience, I'm still hearing from kids who thought that was one of the coolest things they ever got to do.
I mean, when you went joining us, those kids went nuts right then. You could have read out of a phone book from that point on. You had them.
They're just going to blow the roof off the place. Like, I get chills thinking about it.
The rifles would spin rifles, then they would catch them and they would fall on the ground at the end of the tune.
Like a death drop.
Yeah.
What's in your blood? If you cut my arm, I'll bleed Bands of America, Music for All.
What Marching Bands of America started was innovative, so new, so exciting.
50 years, a half century? Are you kidding me?
Happy 50th anniversary to Bands of America.
So get your program, find a great seat here in our virtual stadium, and get ready to learn everything you ever wanted to know about Bands of America. Joining us from Bellbrook, Ohio. Hi, everybody. Welcome back again to Joining Us. We are celebrating 50 years of Bands of America excellence. I hope you've been enjoying our podcast up to this point, because I know for me, it has been just one treat after the next. And today's guest is right at the top of that list. She is the Southern Division President of the National Association for Music Education and was formerly an assistant professor of music education at Troy University. She's a past president of the Alabama Music Educators Association and on the current faculty advisors for the Troy NAfME chapter. And Susan, I'm going to ask you about that. Susan Smith joins us today. Susan, how are you?
Hey, Chuck. I'm great. It's good to talk with you today. I was going to say see you because I am, but nobody else is getting to see you like I am. So
yeah, that's true. We get the luxury of being able to see each other during these recordings, but we do audio only. I think the last time I physically saw you was at Troy University.
Really?
When we had the regional there, and you recommended the finest restaurant I have been to. Do you remember that?
I do. The Corner.
Yes. Oh, my God. It was so good. And that poor server or servers, we went into that space based on your recommendation. You'd set the whole thing up. There were this is the night before a BOA regional, which we had never had at Troy University. So we're doing all these firsts, right? And that place, they took such good care of us. And we were such a big party. I want to say there might have been 30 to 40 of us in that party, all based on your recommendations. That's the weight you pull, Susan.
Well, here's the secret to that is that the gentleman who's the manager, he is the son-in-law of the director of bands at Troy University, Mark Walker.
Get out. I didn't catch that. Well, of course we went there.
Well, he just knows how the crowd rolls. So he was happy to be around band folks.
You know, the experience that we had there was just so great. And of course, that's 90% of it because of you and the atmosphere that you created. And we're going to get to your time at Troy University. But I'm talking to you today from where I am, essentially. You're in Winter Park, Florida, and I'm just up the road in a tiny little town called Inverness. You'd pass me on the exit on your way to anywhere. How do you like living in Winter Park? I lived there for a little while. It's a great space.
Oh, it's lovely. You know, I was looking for a place where I would feel comfortable moving from Troy, and my brother is in Claremont. And back in the day, we did drum corps here in Central Florida between the Suncoast folks and Magic of Orlando and just a lot of friends. And I felt like it would be a good airport, a crowded airport, but a good one that you can get anywhere.
That airport's crazy. I much prefer Tampa, but
yes.
The Orlando airport is just, it's enormous. It's so big and crazy.
It is. Well, they do have family lines now, so hopefully that'll help a little bit.
They do. Oh, well, that's good. Do they have blind people lines? I could use one of those these days. So you hit the Wayback Machine a little bit. Let's do that. Tell me about the beginnings of Susan Smith. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Fairfax, Virginia. My mom was one of the first female band directors in the state of, or Commonwealth of Virginia, as we say.
Yeah, that's right. I'm from a Commonwealth as well, the great Commonwealth of Kentucky.
You are from a Commonwealth.
That's right.
Kentucky. I remind people all the time of both of those. And, you know, I love being in band. We were all in band. My brothers were drum major in high school, and It was just the family business, really.
Yeah. So with mom as a band director, was there a choice or did you all want to do?
I don't know that I thought of anything else to do.
Yeah.
We would host the district band directors parties at my house, and I got to know all these conductors and teachers, and I just wanted to be around that. I wanted to have that effect on students, and a lot of it honestly had to do with my experiences at Music for All, then Bands of America as well.
Really, as a student?
Yeah, I was never there. Well, I was actually as a student, a college student I was trying to remember the years, 1988.
Okay.
My sophomore year at James Madison University, which is where I went to school. I was one of the drum majors of the band, and we came to Grand Nationals in the Pontiac Silverdome, which is not in use anymore by anybody.
That's right. Well, for me, that was the building. I love Lucas Oil Stadium. Love it. And if people don't know this, Lucas Oil Stadium, it may be the only professional football stadium designed with Bands of America and band in mind. The flow and the way the place is padded with soundproofing throughout. Literally, Scott McCormick was there at the groundbreaking with Peyton Manning when they dug that in. But the RCA Dome, for me, that was such a great space because of my seat. I was literally on the 50-yard line, tier 2, looking right at it. And it was,
oh my gosh.
I mean, now, have you been up to the new booth in the new building? I say the new building because it's been there for a decade, right?
I haven't been to the announcer's booth, but I've been on those levels, yeah.
Well, it is at the roof line at the 0 on side 2.
I had no idea.
The roof, yeah, as high as you can go, literally looking at the rafters. If they were to open the roof, it would be right there in front of me. And the glass is very thick. And so it is, while you get the impressions of all the shows, and I certainly enjoy them from that perspective, it's not the same as being right in the middle, looking at everything, which you get to do as a judge and as a former director. So tell me about JMU and that experience for you. Who was the director at JMU when you were there?
Pat Rooney was director of band, and it was a big push that we were going to Grand Nationals. We always played really well.
To perform, right? You were going to perform.
Yeah, we were going to Grand Nationals to perform an exhibition and brought in a lot of people. Todd Ryan came for a semester to help with marching, to kind of clean things up. And it was a big thing to move a big band like that to Pontiac.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember vividly being pretty scared because I was on the back sideline to start the show in the stands, and they were facing me.
Oh, my God.
For about 30 seconds. And I was conducting about 4 or 5 seconds different, it felt like.
Oh, yeah.
From what I was hearing.
Yeah. Did they train you on the difference in the sound in that building?
Well, they didn't really prepare us for it. We did get to rehearse in there, I believe.
Yeah.
But we had never been in an inside facility,
Wow.
So it was a great experience. And it kind of started my path with that.
Wow. I didn't know that.
After that, many of the older folks at JMU had come to be swags. Patty Newman, Mike Bridges, Susan Freeland, Shelley Cook, Boardman, she became.
Yep. I remember all those people. Yeah.
Wonderful leadership people. And they were like, you want to come? Go swag with us.
Was Mike Bridges a drum major when you were a drum major, or was he before you?
He was never a drum major. Patty was a drum major, but he was baritone section leader, and he was kind of Mr. Motivator, class clown.
He still is today. He lives in my little town here.
That's what I hear.
Listen, here's the serendipitous story there. So Mike Bridges and I, part of that original 7-member team of Bands of America, when we did all these events with 7 people, God knows how we did that. He goes to Hawaii, leaves the continental United States, goes to Hawaii, meets his wife. They get married. She's from Inverness, Florida.
Oh my
and they end up coming back here. Mike Bridges today is the PIO, the Public Information Officer for Citrus County Government, and lives 5 minutes from me. Here we are, 40 years past meeting, and now we're in the same town again. He's been over to the house several times, and without me saying, Mike says hi.
I was going to say, please tell Mike that I said hello when you get a chance.
I certainly will. So that experience at Grand Nationals that year, how did you feel looking at your ensemble, which was a big ensemble, and the stands? Because you performed both prelims and finals, right?
No, just one time, just finals.
So that side is packed with people. That has to be the most people you've ever performed for.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And we're performing Russian Christmas music as the opener.
Oh, my
And the band is
gosh.
in a square around the entire field. And I'm backfield by myself,
Oh,
5
man.
rows up.
Yeah.
So it was pretty intimidating. Once we got them turned around and the rest of the opener going, I felt a lot better
It
after
all
that.
rested on your shoulders, though. It all rested on
But it
your
was
shoulders.
such an electric crowd.
Oh my God.
you
Yeah.
know.
You know, that's the thing. It's always just so cooperative is the best word I can use to describe it. And we've talked about all of this before, where the event is a competition, but it's really not a competition at the same time.
Correct.
Yes, there's a winner. Yes, there's scores. But I've been in those stands with competing band that didn't make finals in my past. And the excitement in those stands is crazy good.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy good, because you know what's about to walk down that tunnel is going to be something like you've never seen before.
They're so supportive. I'm going to jump decades here, but I remember one time being there with the St. James Band, and we were sitting in the stands to watch finals. It was the year that Blue Springs was 13th.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
came in dressed to the nines, incredibly polite, supportive, sat next to us. I mean, it gives me chills even now thinking about it. It just tells you what a great human Tim is and what a great program that is. But
Yeah.
it's hard to explain to people is you're competing, but everybody is so appreciative of the hard work and the level that people are able to accomplish that it's not like knockdown, drag out kind of battles,
Well, it's not a state circuit. It's not a local show.
Right.
It's people that will never see each other in this arena ever, in this moment ever again. You may come back, bands come back year after year or every 4 years or whatever, but this moment is one of a kind. And I think that's part of the thing too. So when you started swagging, you must have continued to have met educators and icons of the activity that had to have influenced the way you teach today, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was amazing. Well, first of all, both years I swagged. We were at Whitewater, and the swag team, the first year I was there, got an entire week with Dr. Tim.
Oh, wow.
Not an hour, not a day, an entire
Wow.
week.
That never happens.
No, I knew how special it was then, but even more now do I realize, how lucky we were to have that time with him. So it really set the precedent for the entire week. And then to be able to be around all these great educators. The first year I was a guard swag, and these icons of people that are just teaching classes and we're with. And I learned so much. I met great people that would influence me forever. Wanda Conway, Tommy Keenum, Wes Cartwright, Larry Ribio, just really wonderful people that I got to watch teach in their element. And it was truly life-changing, as they say.
Boy, you just listed some big. Did you come out of the color guard ranks? I didn't know that.
My band director would never let me do color guard outside because I was a French horn player, mellophone.
Yeah, we need you in the line. Yeah.
I did some winter guard and really enjoyed that a lot. Did rifle. I have a story for you about your friend Chad Dugan and rifle at some point.
Okay. All right. Well, Chad and I marched together, or rather, I was on the instructional team for Scouts when Chad started marching. I had just aged out in 84. I think 85 was probably his first year.
Yeah.
Let me hear it. Is this something I can use against him, maybe?
Chad Dugan and I ended up at band camp together when I was in high school at the Texas Tech band camp. He's from Texas, and my brother Ben was doing his doctorate there or had finished his doctorate. And so I went to camp, and everybody did concert band, but then you got to do electives. Well, I did rifle. So Chad Dugan and I were the advanced rifle class at the Texas Tech band camp. The two of us.
Nice.
And we did a routine to Baby I'm a Star. And I called him Mad Chad because he was going to go march the Madison Scouts, was what he wanted to do.
Yep.
And I was selected outstanding rifle. So
okay, I realize this is audio only, but my face just dropped.
And he kindly lets me tell people that story.
Yeah, you will have that forever. Good for you.
For sure.
And Chad has gone on to just amazing things too.
Oh, and then he designed our uniforms for color guard at St. James. So
did he?
Yeah.
See, that's full circle.
Yeah.
That's very, very nice.
So that first year, it was just so not overwhelming, but it's so easy to get the idea of the philosophy from the servant leadership as swags. That's what you do. We don't get paid. College students that come to support and keep the students safe and engaged during camp, and watching people like Mike Bridges and all these folks, just Leslie Reynolds. There we go.
Yes. I remember her. Sure.
Yeah, from Kentucky. Another one. People carrying trays and cleaning up and being there for other people. It really influenced my education philosophy for the rest of my life to this day.
Oh, I would say, given the path that you've been on since then, there's no doubt that those experiences launched you into a direction. Plus, one of the things we're learning when we're doing these podcasts is that we've all, in the cosmic universe of personalities and excellence and a quest for more information, we've all somehow found this organization, Bands of America, Music for All, and have just every time a new person comes in, with that desire that you had as a swag.
Yeah.
It just makes the ball bigger and bigger and bigger. And the influence that the organization has had on everyone that has been a part of it is just mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
Think of your career. If you
Yeah.
hadn't been in JMU's band and been at Grand Nationals and then become a swag team member, where, you can't even guess where we'd be right now.
Well, I certainly would not have met my husband because the next year at Summer Symposium, I was a swag.
1 year at band camp.
That's right. 2 stories out of that. First of all, I got my first job interview during camp.
Really?
So I flew home and interviewed and flew back. And I was really nervous to tell Scott McCormick because, you just don't want to let anybody down. And I was going to go be an educator.
Right. Of course.
But I did. I flew down, I flew back, and I got the job, which was great. But then at the Beer and Brat, which was one of the director's receptions for everyone.
Right. Oh my gosh. I haven't thought about that in decades. That was such a great event.
Yeah, it was outside, and it was actually, I think that when we moved to Ball State, it was outside. At this venue, it was inside. But at the time, the swags, this would not happen now, but the swags were pouring beer. Like we had a pitcher of beer, and we're going around pouring it for directors.
Well, it was Wisconsin.
It was Wisconsin. Brats and beers. They go
And
together.
I want to say the drinking age was 18 in Wisconsin at the time. And I'm going to go officially on the record for that, whether it was
Well,
or
it was
not.
directors. There were no students anywhere.
That's right.
And so I had met Robert because he had arranged for our band at JMU some. I mean, I knew who he was. And he was sitting there at the table with Pat Rooney because he was teaching camp. And Pat said, Hawkins, sit down and drink a beer with us. Come on, sit down and drink a beer. And I was like, Dr. Rooney, Dr. Tim would kill me if I was, I cannot do that. So Robert and I made a pact when he came to JMU that summer with Magic of Orlando in 1990. We said that we would go out and have a date.
Wow.
And that was kind of the start of things.
I love that story.
Yeah.
That's so great. I know a couple of swag team members that met their spouses
Yeah.
through Bands of America. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So that first job, where was it at?
It was at Cortland High School in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Okay. And you were director of bands at that point?
I was director of bands and had someone in my band that you would know his name. The first kid that figured out I knew what I was talking about was Billy Rulipaw.
Oh, really?
Billy Rulipaw
Yeah.
was a percussionist in my band
Wow.
from the Marine Drum Bugle Corps, recently retired, the main recruiter. And, it was a challenge because it was a program where the director before me, they opened a new school and he thought he was going to get it. So he moved all his seniors over there.
Oh, wow.
And then he didn't get it the first year. And so
Wow.
he was pretty angry. Then that guy left and he got that job. But so I was kind of left with not as many people as I would have. And when you follow someone who's been there for so long, it can be a challenge, A. And B, when you're young and think you should just change everything without waiting and you're impatient, that doesn't work out as well either. I was not a great teacher at the time. I was a young teacher that thought, I knew more than I did. But I had some parents that were very patient and kind with me. And I learned a lot that first job.
And you now had a ton of resources available to you,
Oh, sure.
right? After
Absolutely.
connecting with Bands of America. I mean, Dr. Tim alone would probably have been someone I would think would have called to say, hey, what the heck? What do I do here?
Absolutely. Saw him several times and went back to compete at JMU. My arch nemesis was my best friend in the world, David Duffy, who continues to be a band director in
Sure.
Texas. We were best of
Wow.
friends. And,
Your arch nemesis.
we would battle Class A. They
were great. They were great.
Yeah,
I mean, they have several regional Class A titles under their belt. And
for sure.
yeah, it was really, really good. That reminds me so much of when I was going to college in Lexington at UK. I was teaching at George Rogers Clark. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
Lafayette, it's just down the
There
road.
we go.
And
Yep.
they were the two that were going at it all the time. But the mutual respect between those programs outweighed. I mean, they were the type of programs that kept each other going, and it sounds like that's what happened with you and David in your programs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you've got that arch nemesis who, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, isn't really your arch nemesis,
Yeah.
the kids are going to buy into the fact that, hey, excellence breeds excellence. And if we want to be the best, we have to, behave in a certain manner and rehearse in a certain manner and all of that. So how long were you there?
I was just at Cortland for 2 years because Robert and I, we had been dating, but we decided, listen, if this is going to be for real, we need to live in the same town, So
That helps. Yeah.
yeah, we moved towards Harrisonburg because he was teaching at the time at James Madison. I had left to go be a band director when he came to be a
Yeah.
music industry professor. I spent 2 years as the band director at Spotswood High School, which is just 8 miles away in McGaheysville, Virginia, which is not spelled anything like you would think it would. It looks like McGaheysville.
That sounds like the sort of place Bob Buckner would send up a note to me to
Yes.
know how to say. Yeah.
Exactly, 100%. So I spent 2 years there, and our girls were born in Harrisonburg, Savannah, and Madison. It was a great time as a family. And then I actually took off a little time when they were born, and then I spent 1 year teaching strings in 3 different trailers in Central High School in Woodstock, Virginia,
Really?
in the same building, one of the same trailers my mom taught in 30 years before me. So
Were you versed in strings?
I had string tech just like anybody else, but there is nothing scarier than a class full of 6th graders saying, tune me,
Oh,
with
my
string
gosh.
instruments when you're a horn player.
Wow.
But I learned a lot about pitch. I learned a lot about key signatures because our first concert, we were playing something in F, and I thought it was easy because I just had one flat, but turns out strings don't do those very much. And so I learned a lot in that situation for sure.
All right, let's take a moment for a quick break because I want to listen to some of your stories. Now, remember, if you've got a special Music for All or Bands of America memory or story, you can record it and be a part of this very 50th anniversary podcast. Just visit musicforall.org/podcast to contribute your story.
Hello, my name is Connor Pack, and I am a junior high band director in Ogden, Utah. My experience with BOA is maybe a little unique because my high school band didn't really participate in Bands of America. It just wasn't our thing. And I really don't remember exactly how I found out about it. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I saw an ad recruiting people for the 2009 Bands of America Honor Band in the Rose Parade. And I ended up auditioning and making it on trumpet and ended up going and marching that January under the direction of George Parks. And I think I can say that that experience is probably one of the most influential moments in my life in terms of deciding to become a band director. Getting to work under George Parks, who is arguably one of the greatest to ever do it. I ended up going to one of his leadership camps the following year, not because I was a drum major, but because I just wanted to get more of that experience. And I wanted to become a band director and a leader like him. I attended a BOA alumni reunion in 2010 at DCI World Championships and won a free set of tickets to BOA Grand Nationals and got to go watch that a couple months later. And yeah, all of that together really kind of solidified my decision to pursue a degree in music education and become a band director myself. And now I get the opportunity, even though I'm a junior high director, our high school band, under the direction of the awesome Stan Renda, participates in the BOA Utah Regional, and I get to help work with that program. And so many of the professional connections and friends that I've made that have helped me over the years and continue to help me build this program came from that first interaction with Bands of America. So I'm extremely grateful to BOA for building the community that they have and for really helping me become the band director I am today.
All right, now let's rejoin our conversation. Well, you've also been a choral director, right?
Yeah, at Spotswood, I had to do band and choir. And it was, again, another learning experience because I felt like my classroom experiences in college taught me how to sing, but not so much what to sing and where to stand.
Right.
And it was more about a vocal techniques for me class. And so fortunately, I had a few folks around that helped with programming. And I just, did the best I could as a musician and didn't accept for it not to be a great experience for students. That's really what it was about, is for the students to have a great experience.
And isn't that it? I mean, that's the whole Music for All thing. It's so student focused and non-ego driven. I was obviously a band kid. I was drum major for my high school band, but I was probably more invested in chorus.
Yeah.
Going through high school. I was Kentucky All-State a couple years in a row, that sort of thing. And my first scholarship to Northern Kentucky University was a vocal scholarship. I was going to be a chorus teacher.
Wow.
That was it, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Until, and I said this before, until I figured out that music ed classes were 1 credit hour each, and it was going to take me 52 years to get out of college. How does anybody do that? That's the part that just kills me.
Challenge.
Oh,
well, I imagine with your voice, the choir teacher wanted you.
it was so great. And everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, my connection is through summer camp as well with Music for All, and then being put into the PA booth to assist Dick Janik, and the rest, as we know, just kind of came down as it is. Now, I want to say you've always had a connection at Bands of America, but there was a huge reconnection when you got to St. James, right?
Yeah, for sure. after Robert and I left James Madison, we moved for him to be the director of bands at Troy University from 1997 to '01. And that was a great experience for us. We actually took the band to the Orlando Regional, had a great rehearsal, and then had no performance because
of
it
the weather.
downpoured.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Welcome to Florida, right?
that's right. Never know what happened. So that it was
Wow.
close for the Troy band to have that performance, but didn't quite happen. But yeah, so we lived in Troy for those 4 years, and then we left to write a music curriculum, the Expressions music curriculum. I had this idea in my master's degree that I wanted to write a pre-K through 12 connected music curriculum that would align vertically, so we would keep more kids involved in music in the secondary level. And so we left to do that, and Warner Brothers was all on board. Robert spent 3 or 4 years recording backtracks. We wrote a general music series, 2 levels of a band, 2 levels of orchestra, guitar, had started on jazz. And then we had a hurricane. Robert and I did. Hurricane Ivan
Oh
happened
my gosh.
and wiped us out. So what happened? Robert had started a music industry program when we were at Troy the first time. And then the chancellor of the university called him and said, Robert, we've got this program, but nobody to teach. Would you come back? And I think that bodes well or speaks well of not only Troy University and the wonderful chancellor, Dr. Jack Hawkins, but Robert's relationship with the university where he went. It's not often that you leave somewhere and they ask you to come back if you're able. And
Right.
post Ivan, we just wanted things to be a little more stable for my girls and for us to just have that time family wise for it to be a wonderful opportunity. So when we moved back to Troy, and I knew if we ever lived in Alabama again, I wanted my girls to go to school where Jenny Mills had gone to high school. Jenny Mills was the librarian for the Marine Band, one of them, and is now running ops for the Marine Band. And she was in the Troy Band when we were there. And that was the smartest kid I'd ever seen. She was just brilliant. And I thought, we're going to go to school wherever she went to school. And it was St. James in Montgomery.
Okay.
And I really liked it because it was close to an Air Force base. So it was transient, and it was students of all colors and had lived all over the world and cultures. And so we were going to go to St. James, and I was just going to drive the girls there, and I was going to do more writing and presenting and things. But the band director decided to go back to grad school, and I didn't want a first-year teacher to teach Madison clarinet to start her. So I applied for the job, and the headmaster said, "You're a little overqualified for this. Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And we stayed in Troy for a little bit, and then we moved to Montgomery, and Robert started making the trip from Montgomery to Troy. But it was the best experience. I had the opportunity to teach my girls, both of them. I was their middle school and high school band director. And it just started a great experience for us as a family, the 4 of us. Robert said, as a band parent, I'm not going to sell cheese and sausage or flip burgers, but I'll write you some good shows. How's that?
I could just see it too, going door to door. Actually, he'd probably be hitting up all of the music industry in the country to buy cheese and sausage if that was going to be the case. Oh my God, that's so funny.
So it was a wonderful school. It was a non-denominational private school, and it was blue-collar students whose parents just really wanted a great education for them. And the band had an experience of being successful, but mostly close by and as a small, fearless program, because the school was only going to be so large. Band wasn't ever going to get bigger than what it was.
Fearless is exactly how I would describe that band. Fearless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never expected us, honestly, to compete in Bands of America. The first year, we did a baseball show because I thought that was universal appeal. Anybody could get a baseball show. And we went to a show at Tate High School where David Starnes and Jeff Harper were judging. And I went to another one where Rob Grice, band composer, was. And he said, I think you could hang with Muscle Shoals in Atlanta. And I was like, what? I don't think that. I don't know. So that same year that we had gone to Tate and done well and saw Chattahoochee win, we went to the Atlanta Regional to watch, and they were 12th.
Wow.
And for my students and parents to get that experience of you can be really good, but there can always be somebody better or a higher standard.
That's right. It's the big fish, little pond sort of scenario, right?
Yeah. So it was wonderful for them to watch a regional like that. And the best part was we were walking through the parking lot, and one of my band parents says, "Why don't we have an ATV?" And I said, "I don't know. Why don't we have an ATV?"
That's awesome. So they're watching all these vehicles towing around stuff in the parking lot going, why are we pushing this stuff? We need...
Yeah, exactly. The next week I had an ATV at the school. Yep.
So you went to that Atlanta show to watch with your kids. You weren't participating that first year. right?
Yeah.
When your kids are sitting there for finals and they're watching that show, and I don't know if that was a Lassiter year or whatever it was, but the Atlanta show was always, for me, one of my favorites because it drew from so many different places, kind of like St. Louis does now. What was their reaction to watching that event, being out of their comfortable little pond and out in a bigger body of water, watching those bands?
They were just super appreciative, because when you do something, you know how hard, like I said earlier, that someone works and they're doing it at a level that you don't even think is possible. That's what's so great about taking high school kids to go watch drum corps as well, right? And that was part of my philosophy with them. There's always going to be somebody better, right? That's not to upset you or to make you feel like you can never get there, but to be appreciative that there's not a top, right? There's always something to strive for.
That's correct.
I believe that was the year that Carmel did the British show, and they won that year. And I remember being in the CNN Center with these same kids, and they looked just like my students, the same thing. And I was struck because there was a student, a saxophone player, with a physical disability. And it hit me because if a student in the Carmel band could have a physical disability like that and it be accepted and that person a part of the program, then everybody can be in band.
Anything's possible.
It told me about his philosophy. And Richard Saucedo from that moment on was my hero because I think that too. I think anybody, you have a heartbeat, you can be in my program.
That's right.
And it really solidified it for me.
And we see that time and time again, especially with the Parent Booster Award that they give away at Grand Nationals. We're constantly seeing that the student who has mobility issues and they're in a wheelchair or a mobile, and literally mom and dad are behind them, pushing them around in the forms to make them, you nailed it. Anyone can be in the band. Anyone.
100%.
If there's some way for you to make music and be a part of the program, we want you.
Yes.
And I think that's a really, really brilliant way to look at it. I love the idea that when kids see things, and I'll share a little story that Greg Bim shared with me several weeks ago, perennial, amazing, 8-time national champion, Marian Catholic High School, they live by the excellence programming. You're competing with yourself every time. But he had to test. He knew at some point that Marian wasn't going to make finals. That day would come at some point, right? Through time, through attrition, through whatever. There will come a time. And that would be the real test of whether his kids had bought into the Music for All philosophy or not. And he goes, they came through with flying colors.
Yeah.
When that day came, they were still just kids and they did their best and they knew they had done their best. And so that was great. And that's what they were satisfied with. And that makes me really happy. And I've got to think that your kids had that same feeling watching those bands. Oh my God, they're doing things that we could absolutely do. Because I know the first time you competed, you won your class, right? The first time.
We didn't win the first time because the great thing is we had a couple of other bands like in our class at Atlanta that were very strong. Muscle Shoals, I mentioned, and Oak Grove. And we kind of went back and forth in that region and it really helped us to get better. And that's the great thing about it. But yeah, we did win the Atlanta Regional several times and it was just, again, a great experience for my students. I remember the first time we won, we did the Rock Odyssey show. See, our programming for the St. James Band was, and we'll get to this part as well, but it was the Smith 4 driving home from Summer Symposium in the car, coming up with what the show was going to be. Now, that's late for anybody else in the world, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. It's late June by that point. Yeah.
That's when my husband had time to write my music. And we're driving home and we had this philosophy. We had several philosophies at St. James. We would come up with this list of givens. We were going to be a large rock band or jazz ensemble, not a small band from Central Casting. It had to work for Bubba and Boa. It had to work for Bubba on Friday night, and it had to work for Boa on Saturday.
I love that. I love that. Because you're right. You had a football crowd you had to appeal to in
100%.
in Alabama.
And we couldn't do a show in Montgomery about trees or death and dying. It was just not going to happen.
No, they'd be like, what are you doing? What's that all about?
So Robert wanted to do something like a rock odyssey, another rock something. And Madison in 10th grade at the time said, well, we read the Odyssey in 9th grade. Couldn't we make it a rock odyssey about the Odyssey? Homer's Odyssey. And we were like, great, it's going to be awesome. It's our first big boy show. And
big boy show.
I had found my friend David Duffy said, hey, I think I was complaining about we didn't have guard instructors. There weren't a lot. I could get to people in Atlanta, but didn't have a lot of guard instructors. And David Duffy said, I think Adam Dalton is doing his master's degree at the University of Alabama. So I drove to Tuscaloosa and we started at Starbucks and then went to Chipotle and spent the whole day together. And I came home and...
Not a bad pick.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Madison said, Mommy got me a garden instructor for Christmas. Because I had been I had been writing all the work up to that point.
Mommy got me a garden instructor for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
When I got to St. James, there were 4 in the color guard. And Madison was in 6th grade. I handed her a flagpole and said, you're not going to a babysitter. You're going to be in the color guard.
Yeah.
And that started a long odyssey for her from drum corps to the highest levels.
Yep.
So
she ended up at Troopers, right?
She marched Troopers 3 years. She was the horse. And then she aged out in 2017 at Carolina Crown.
Yeah.
And did 2 years at Paramount Indoor with Rick Subel. But yeah, so getting that connection with Adam Dalton just kind of changed everything. It heightened everything. And really, it was more coordinated. That's also when I started getting dance fisticates with Chad Dugan to design the uniforms.
Chad, who got 2nd place rifle at camp all those years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad, are you listening?
Yeah.
Hi, buddy.
Oh, gosh. I love you, Chad. So I thought that we were just, because you have to create layers. That's the thing at being at this level with the judges at that level. You look at the sheets and are you doing these things? Is some people doing it? All the people doing it all of the time? Some of the time? That's kind of how the rubrics at that time were set up. And so I just thought, okay, we got this going. Everybody's going to figure it out. I walked into the first clinic, which I would recommend to anyone to do those clinics after a band show because it really allowed my band to really move forward quickly. You're sitting in a room with 2 incredible visual judges and creators for 30 minutes, and they're part of your band staff. And they're just telling you, here's what I do, here's some suggestions, and then 30 minutes with the music staff. And I was so excited. I walked in, and Mike Stone says, I don't get it. I was like,
About the Rock Odyssey?
The Rock Odyssey show. I was so excited. I thought
I don't get
we're
it.
moving to that level. He's like, I don't get it. And he's, the highest level of adjudication. And so it really taught me a lot that those shows have to be, I have to go back to the Bubba and Boa. It has to be a universal appeal that people can get and they can figure out. And even judges want some Easter eggs. They need some nuggets of things to understand.
Oh, heck yeah. Because if they're going to see you several times a year, of course they want something different to throw in, just to bite their appetite just a little bit on it. So did you see a difference in your kids? So now you've got a team. You've got Adam doing the guard. You've got Robert putting the show together. You're, of course, at the helm.
Yeah.
Did you see a change in your kids at that point? They're competing at a different level now.
Yeah.
Do they bring a different level to rehearsal?
Well, see, at St. James, I got my kids at all different times because we had students in middle school as well. So I had some 7th graders who were brothers and sisters of folks or their older siblings were in the band. I had 8th graders, high school color guard. So they would all come at different times. And the only way I could figure out to do it was to do it like we had done at Troy with the college band. Every section leader had a to-do list at the beginning of rehearsal. They would start in sectionals. They would warm up there. They'd do stuff on the move, and then we'd come to ensemble. And by that time, everybody was there. So we didn't really lose much time.
Right.
So
that's smart.
Building the leadership, we talk about leadership and we give people titles, but we don't often allow them to actually lead or learn how to lead.
Right.
And we get mad when they don't know how to lead.
Right.
So that part of it was key. The other part was watching these wonderful programs that were great mentors for us. We'd go to Atlanta. My friends would be like, you're going on after Tarpon Springs. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Did that happen one year?
Oh yeah, 100%. But then backstage, they're high-fiving my kids and telling them how awesome they are. And that just really, builds them up.
Yeah.
And gives them the confidence to be appreciated by a program they put at a level like that.
That's correct. A former national champion and all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kevin Ford did the smartest thing when he created the Leadership Academy as part of the Tarpon Springs schools. What you see their band jackets that say Tarpon Springs Leadership Academy on them. And that's part of a core curriculum. And you already know this, I'm sure, that begins back in middle school. What parent doesn't want their kid to be a leader? Right?
Yep.
So they enroll into Leadership Academy, which leads right to the band room at Tarpon Springs High School. So those kids walk into that band room with parents on both sides going, how can we help? How can we be a part of this program? And my kid's all in. And it's not a bad model.
Nope. And you'll never guess who his high school band director was.
Who?
Robert Smith.
Get out. Really?
He had he and his brother in high school, and then he was his drum major at Suncoast Sound.
Was Robert a woodwind player?
No, trumpet. Trumpet and keyboard. Everybody thinks he's a percussionist because he writes such great percussion parts to keep everybody busy. But
well, I'll tell you, with Kevin's woodwinds, and I know he is a woodwind player, and I've never seen woodwinds run at 220 across the field and go at the same time. It's crazy to me what they're able to do. So not a bad group to be backstage high-fiving your kids.
Yeah.
Before St. James, not with you, but well before St. James, there was Jackson Academy.
Yes.
Which was that band that kind of came up through the ranks. And I remember it was 92, I believe, when they came to nationals for the first time and made finals.
Right.
And I hear all the time, and tell me if this is something that you talk to your kids about. You got to be a big band to do well at Bands of America. And that's just baloney.
Yeah.
You have to be a great band to do well at Bands of America. How do you respond to folks that say that to you?
Yeah, the Jackson Academy and the Dare Band, both of those were great models for us. And
Bourbon County, all those. Yeah.
Bourbon County, Beechwood. They're just some great, great bands in Kentucky and Ohio that had already started doing it, Mississippi with Jackson Academy. So, I tell people often, I've had a band with 16 wins on the field in Lucas Oil Stadium, and I'll show you the picture. That was what we wanted to really push. And what I learned from my parents at St. James, doesn't matter the size of the program to have high standards. You can have high standards no matter what. And that's something that we really tried to push. And Bands of America really gave us that vehicle and that venue because you were going to get great feedback from the judges. All I had to do was A/B tapes from a local show to a show at a regional for my parents between, oh, great, okay, yeah, okay, to Nola Jones giving you a detailed list of how to get better in the next week. It's just night and day. We'd always go to one local show to kind of collect the plastic, as I would say, for the hardware for the freshmen for the first time. And,
right. Let them taste the victory. Yeah.
Yeah. We get a 95 in September. My kids would be like,
I remember those days.
Miss Smith, we're terrible. Why did we get a 95? And then go get a 59 our first show at McEachern, Oh,
my God. I totally get that. The first year I was teaching color guard at George Rogers Clark, we went up to the greater Cincinnati area to Campbell County High School show. And we went on the field and they were never worse. The guard was never worse. And we won guard and they're all excited. And I looked at them, I'm like, really? Really? Because you guys know how you performed, right? You were there. You saw what that was. But it is important. It is important to allow, as you said, the freshmen to enjoy that moment and then say, okay, now we're going to go play with the big boys. And it's going to be a whole different ballgame there.
Yeah. Well, it's a national standard. And that's really what you want to be able to evaluate yourself on and to give the students the opportunity to have that kind of evaluation and standard. And Bands of America allowed us, because at first it was just Atlanta. That's the closest thing we could get to. And it became more and more difficult to do a spring trip for us because of testing and all the things that happened. So we started using regionals in the fall as our big trip.
Oh, really?
So we went to St. Louis, we went to San Antonio twice, and I think we went to Grand Nationals 3 times. My band parents would have gone to Grand Nationals every year, not to compete, but because they love the town. And they knew where everything was. They knew where the trucks went, They knew where to eat. And
Indy is a great place. The things that Indianapolis has done to revamp or build their reputation, not just with the sports stuff that they have with the NCAA and all that sort of stuff, but the arts education organizations that are now based out of Indianapolis is mind-blowing. The World Violin Association is based in Indianapolis, Indiana, but Bands of America, moving Bands of America from Chicago to Indy was a giant part of the city's plan to make it youthful and exciting and invigorate it with energy and excitement and smart people.
Absolutely.
That's fun that your parents would come up every year.
Oh, they loved it. My last year there, I gave my seniors the opportunity to choose if they wanted to go back to Grand Nationals or if they wanted to go to San Antonio. And they 100% wanted to go back to San Antonio, because we had such a great experience there. They're like, there are not a lot of small bands in Texas. And they loved us. And they, basically threw babies both times we were there.
It's nice to be the rock star walking on the field, isn't it?
It is. Oh, my gosh. The first year we were on late and it was just a great experience. And then the second year we won 1A, 2A, and half of 3A that year. And talk about
That's
stressful.
something.
I thought I wanted to go on. I wanted to go on last. I always wanted to go on first in exhibition because I knew my kids would be young and tired, that it'd be hard to make it to last.
Right.
But that show, I wanted to go on last so we could go get a nap, but ended up we were on first. And it's hard to get out of that dome because there's so many people.
Oh, my God. It's a crazy building, and it's aging not so gracefully right now.
So we're rushing out, got our pizza. We're walking back in. Marcus is lined up on the bridge, clapping for us as we go back in.
Wow.
Just 100% class act. And then we go in, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get my kids to get through the show? And I kept saying, we're working towards next year right now. Nola Jones, Adam Stage, they're all up there watching you. This is an exhibition. There's no score or anything.
Yeah. But they're still doing tapes for you, right?
No, they're not doing tapes for us, not in exhibition
Oh,
and
okay.
finals, but they're watching.
Yeah.
You know that I know that they're watching.
Of course.
And fortunately, Claudia Taylor Johnson, where we had rehearsed earlier that day, was on last. So they were sitting in the stands. And those kids screamed for my kids in that Pearl show so much, and it kind of pushed them through.
Wow.
And they were great. We had a great show, and it was a great experience for us, for sure.
Well, talking about I Don't Get It with your rock opera show, the year that Claudia Taylor Johnson did the Americana Fish show, whatever that was, I was chatting with the director, and I was like, help me understand. Help me understand. You're doing a patriotic show, but there's this boat on the field, and there's fish flags, and I don't understand. It was great.
Did they have clamshells that year?
Probably.
On the front side?
Yes, it was very seafood oriented.
Because that was one thing I ixnayed out of the Pearl show. I was like, no, nobody will ever, we shouldn't have Pearl.
Too cliche.
Too cliche. And then Claudia Taylor Johnson has clams on the field.
They threw the kitchen sink at us that year.
Yeah.
But great program. Really, no denying what a great program it is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? Tell me about Susan Smith's life today. What are you up to?
Yeah. Well, as many people know, my husband of 32 years, Robert Smith, passed away September 21st of 2023, unexpectedly.
Such a tragedy.
Yeah.
It was after open heart surgery, right?
Very trying to. Yeah, he'd had surgery and things kind of went awry afterwards. And, being optimists, we had never really talked about bad things happening very much. We had not really made some plans.
Right. Well, look at your family. Look at the dream existence you guys are living.
Yeah. Well, a lot of hard work and a lot of really kind people. But fortunately, the music and music education community really wrapped their arms around us. And it was...
I was just going to ask the kind of support you got throughout the activity.
Yeah. It was just amazing. So Robert, in 2015, had started a publishing company, RWS Music, and he had done that for several reasons. One, to get all of his copyrights back together eventually. Many people don't know, when Sonny Bono was in office, a lot of the copyright laws changed because Disney was afraid that they were going to lose Mickey Mouse, that it was going to go public domain. And so some of the laws changed that way. Also, we had a lot of R&B artists who were destitute because they didn't own their copyrights. They gave them away back in the day.
Yep.
For a certain amount. And so now, between the 30th and the 35th year, you can ask for copyrights back from a publisher, and they have to give them to you.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what he was kind of setting things up for, starting this publishing company, knowing that, like I've just requested Encanto back from Hal Leonard, and that's kind of, one of the staples, because that was one of his first originals in 1988. So he started a publishing company to pull all the copyrights back together for our girls. And then the other thing was to be able to encourage new young writers, because he would say, you're not always going to be the flavor of the month. Those things dwindle for sure, your popularity. Yeah. And the publishing world has changed greatly. Used to be back in the day, a marching band chart would come out and you'd sell 2,000 copies of a published marching band chart.
Wow.
And now that industry hardly exists anymore, right? Because
everybody's doing their own stuff, right?
Right. We didn't want the same prom dress. We wanted somebody else to remain.
I used to say, I wonder what's in the sale rack at Midwest this year.
Yeah. But the thing is, some of those writers are pretty okay. Like, I don't know, Jay Bocook and Mike Story and Robert Smith. Right. And so just funny. So we created that for ourselves. So when Robert passed away, he was actually in the middle of working on a new deal with Alfred to change distributors. And they kindly afterwards, after we kind of got our wits back about us after the funeral and everything, spoke with them, and they honored that. And so we changed distributors, and I decided I was supposed to run this company. That was supposed to be what I was going to do after all this. So I gave my notice at Troy because I had become a tenure track professor.
Yeah. Again, that's the last time I saw you. You were there.
Yeah, music ed professor. And I just, that was our house we were going to live in for the rest of our lives. It had a basement in it. Robert was going to put a recording studio and, all of these things. And just decided kind of a fresh take.
It's such a beautiful part of the world. If folks haven't been down to that part of Alabama, it's gorgeous. I was just in Tuskegee 2 weeks ago camping.
Oh, were you?
Just so great. So beautiful over there.
Yeah, beautiful. So the thing about Robert is he could wear a lot of hats. He could do a lot of things. He could edit. He could, engrave. He could be a lawyer. He thought he was a lawyer. I think he was smart enough to be a lawyer.
He probably
And
was.
so
Yeah.
I had to bring on some help, some folks to help out. He had already had a few people doing that, but to kind of keep things moving forward. And so we're now into our third year of our new catalog. We're working on our 2026 catalog. The first year, Brian Balmages stepped in and conducted the recording session for me
Nice.
because he was one of Robert's students as well. And Larry Clark as well, another student, helped a
Wow.
lot. So it's been a long road for sure, but I hear Robert's voice in my head a lot.
I'll bet.
And I think that this is what he wanted us to do.
Well,
So,
good for you. I think and what a great legacy you're building there on his behalf, but for you and your family as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it will live forever, much like what we're doing here today. And I want to sort of move into the future. First, tell me a little bit about how your association with Bands of America and Music for All has impacted your career and your life and what it means to you to be such an integral part of it, because you are an integral part of it.
well, you're kind. Just the amount of people I've met, the clinics I've had the opportunity to go to, it's really woven throughout my family. Both of my girls went to summer symposium at the time. I think I snuck Madison in when she was still in middle school to go to color guard camp.
I love it.
But those impressions on them were, positively life-changing. And it's not to be cliche.
No, that's real, isn't it? That's real.
100% real. Madison, she went to another camp to be unnamed for another thing. Just before she came to camp one time, I went and picked her up. We're hitting the gates at Ball State University, and she's just in tears because she is so happy to be home.
Really?
She's so happy to be somewhere that she felt so comfortable. And the experiences she had through Carolina Crown's color guard being with them and meeting those people, she couldn't wait when she was in, drum corps to have that experience with students. Right. And then both of our girls were involved with the Honor Band of America, and Madison got to do the Rose Parade. So I really have had the chance to experience it from all angles. But not only the experiences I've had to be able to be around people and learn so much. We say summer camp is Midwest in shorts, right?
Yeah. Fact. I've not heard that, but that's great.
But you learn so much being around those folks. But really, it's about a lot of what people would say about Robert. The organization thrives on empowering other people. From Dr. Tim empowering me to James Stevens, empowering me to Susan, you could do this. Gary Markham saying, Susan, you're going to run the Chamber Festival. Okay. I have no idea what I'm deep ends. There we go. Straight in. But empowering people and then them meeting expectation is, I think, the bottom line. Being able to create an atmosphere where people can thrive and be successful and grow as well, continually from the start. When they go to camp to their entire career, there's something for everyone at Music for All. How about that for a snippet?
You are brilliant. And I completely forgot about that you started the Chamber Ensemble event.
I did. Yeah. Gary asked me to do that. We had a couple of our sponsors, Van Doren specifically, wanted to have an opportunity to have an event like that, a little bit more visibility and to have some impact on what's happening in chamber festivals and be able to commission some pieces. So I created that, and we've been going for some time now. I think it's 8 years.
It's all part of the National Festival in Indianapolis, correct?
Part of the National Festival, in Indianapolis. And we had some great experiences from H2 performing to the Army Brass Quintet perform, and students from all over who their program might not come perform at the National Festival with their concert festival, but might have a really excellent chamber group that could come. And then after I did it, I handed it off to Gabe Musella from UIL in Texas, who had a wonderful chamber program at Spring, Texas.
That's making your mark.
Yeah.
That is making your mark. That's what you and your family have done your entire career. You've made your mark, whether it was, him with his writing and all of the beings that, and you with the teaching curriculum that you've talked about starting the National Chamber Ensemble, the legacy of your girls and what they're doing in the world right now. It's fantastic stuff, Susan. I'm so proud of you isn't the word I'm coming up with, but it really is. It's, look at what you've done. Look at what you've done. And if you had to look into the future and see the next 50 years, where would you like to see Bands of America go?
It's hard because you want to be able to serve so many different people in the organization. I mean, we are at capacity, I believe, right now. I think James Weaver is going to take this organization to wonderful places. He's such a big picture thinker. When they announced his hire, I knew that it was going to be a wonderful thing for Music for All because he has led large organizations in a similar manner, but very different. Plus, he's a teacher, so he gets it from that side of things. And I feel like there'll be less silos in music education. That drives me crazy that, that these are the choral people, these are the band people, these are the orchestra people. And then know that we think that everybody does something different. And at the end of the day, we all teach music. And that's kind of been my philosophy since the pandemic. I mean, it's been my philosophy all along, but it's been my mantra that we all teach music. And if we separate ourselves, then we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I also have always believed, because it's what I saw happen at St. James and then happen for Robert at Troy University, we're missing out on a huge percentage of people because we don't have a place for them in our programs. There are people making music all over. The best musician I ever had at St. James was 2 guitar players who, could shred down a stadium by themselves and would impact all of us musically. But someone would say, well, there's no place for that in a band program.
Right. Well, there is. We know that there is a place for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
But also, don't you think that you mentioned it, there's so many people making music that aren't, but maybe they don't have to be at an event to be part of Music for All. Maybe we create things that will allow them to be part of the organization, even though they're not bringing their marching band to a show.
Sure.
That's the reason we changed from MBA to BOA, because it was more than that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like to quote Deb Confredo. She read an article to us at a keynote once about jazz ensembles. In Teaching Music magazine, there was an article about how in the 40s, jazz ensemble was going to be the death of music everywhere. It was evil. It was the worst thing ever. And I think that many people think the same thing about popular music ensembles.
It's just drummers now, just drummers in general.
Yeah.
I think, really.
But, kids are making music. Everyone listens to music. And I've always been an advocate for connecting home music to school music. And I think if we can find more ways to do that, we'll have more people involved in music education. And that's what I'm advocating for, is Music for All.
Well, you have such a musical family with your brother and your sister-in-law and everybody that's attached.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I can't imagine sitting around your table at Thanksgiving and what those conversations sound like.
Yeah, they have been a blessing. I mean, both my brothers and sister-in-laws, since Robert's passing, they've both been very supportive and helpful in many ways. Ben and Cindy are both part of the editorial team for RWS Music.
Good.
And I'm thankful for all of them.
They're quality human beings, that's for sure. I love them both.
Yes,
they're great
they
people.
are,
So.
for sure. The other thing that I have been really thankful for is my leadership opportunities from Music for All. I think has really, really set me up and gave me that space in terms of state leadership and also national leadership with National Association for Music Education. That's exactly where I learned to do it, was through watching those people lead at Music for All. I learned from Laura Blake how to create a schedule. I learned from Cam how you talk to people.
Yeah.
The folks in the office don't even realize the impact that they have on directors just by modeling all the time. I don't think, had I not had those opportunities from those people, I would not be in the position I'm in currently as Southern Division President of NAfME. It's been a blessing, and I owe much of it to Music for All and what I've learned there.
We become like the people we associate with, plain and simple.
100%. Yeah.
Susan Smith, I adore you. Thank you so very much for being part of this. You are now part of Music for All's history. This will go into the archives, and who knows, when we're long gone, someone will listen and go, yeah, she sounded pretty cool, and she is. Susan Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. It's been wonderful to talk with you. Thank you for all you're doing for Music for All.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Joining Us podcast. We are celebrating 50 years of Music for All and Bands of America. Do you have your own story or memory to share? Well, I want to hear it. You can record your own story by visiting musicforall.org/podcasts. We may just include your voice in a future episode. Hey, thanks to Yamaha, our national presenting sponsor, and don't forget to make sure you're subscribed to the Music for All Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank Ben and Laura from the team at Music for All for making this happen and lining up all of our guests. And of course, the way it sounds, that's the magic of our executive producer, Patrick Keller. I'm Chuck Henson. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on Joining Us. Joining us from Avon, Indiana,